this is a word that is never associated with architecture. If you want to do architecture is risk averse from every point of view. Clients don't want anything risky. Architects don't want to do anything risky. The public doesn't want anything risky. But I believe you have to take a risk in architecture. Because life itself is a risk. So every building I try to introduce some risk. And risk means that you go beyond the frontiers of, it's been done 1,000 times before, go ahead and do it again. It doesn't have to be big. Look, a building is 100%, maybe 95% of the buildings I do have very standard technologies, standard practices, standard typology, standard way of doing something, building a city, but I at least try to say 5% has to be something that has never been done before. And that's a risk, sure, because risk means ability to fail. But in architecture, you have to look for the unexpected. You have to expect the unexpected. That's the thought of Heraclitus, 3,000 years ago. Because if you don't expect the unexpected, you'll miss it. I took a risk at ground zero. I didn't put any buildings in the middle of the site where everybody else put buildings. Everybody, all the greatest friends, architects, put buildings in the center. I said, build nothing in the center. It's not a place to build. It's not a piece of real estate. People perish. That was a risk. People say, you're not using half the real estate. It's very valuable in New York. In any of my museum projects, I didn't do, the box cleverly decorated, but it's the same old thing. You enter the museum, you see the same. I try to change the space of the museum itself, because museum is about art. Art is about change, about radical change. And so, whether it's the Denver Art Museum, the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, I didn't just do a nice exterior that is, wow, what a great exterior, and then walk in, same experience. I wanted to do, of course, but I wanted people to say, is this a museum now? Am I in a museum? Or where am I? That's the question of art. And so I tried to do it in a neighborhood, at a tower built in Singapore. Usually towers are extruded. It's economic, it's classic, it's easy. But I said, why does everybody have to live above me or below me? Why can't you just shift slightly the floor plate? It's a slight movement, and then everyone is slightly living in a different position in space. And that's kind of not only beautiful, but it became the most profitable project in Singapore, which is a lot of very talented entrepreneurs and great architects from around the world. So that's kind of, what I believe is important in any project. I think when you come to Denver, even before you come to the museum, somebody might even have a small heart attack. Because the museum isn't stably standing. It's not rising in any vertical position. Each of its forms is twisting towards a different sense of the horizon. It ends in a tip that ascends, in a point that ascends far beyond the horizons of the high-rise buildings. It also is a building that forms a new piazza, a new space, which I also designed the housing. So you're already perplexed, where am I? Then you enter. There was even a study in Denver that a lot of people thought they had vertigo in the building, which is completely nonsense. Somebody said, do you feel vertigo? I said, sure, I feel vertigo. But there was no vertigo. But there are the valleys and those grand spaces of the Rocky Mountains that are in the building too. So, people like to ski, people like to walk and hike, people like to look at the big sky, mile high. That's what I try to do. Now, my building is small. It's not mile high. It's got its limited dimensions and it's got a very specific program. But I tried to instill in the museum something that would never be used up. People can, use things. You can use, in many buildings, you can use up everything in the building and there's nothing left. But I try to put in all my projects something that cannot be used up, even if it's controversial to some extent. But that's art. That's what distinguishes architecture and building. Buildings don't take any risk because they're just technological products of the daily. Art, forever, is a risk, and architecture is a civic art. It's not practiced in a closet or in a private space. It's a civic art because it affects the public, but it is an art nevertheless, and that's the difference. That all art is a risk. Every building I've done, I don't know why. It's always controversial. I don't know why. I try to do something which is completely humble. No, but it's always, even a house. People would say, "Oh, what kind of a house is that?" Just a house. It's got a bedroom. It's got a kitchen. But that's strange. Risk just sticks to me. It's just part of my DNA.